We are back for another. Matt, can you believe this is our 8th cybersecurity tech talk sponsored by Hillstone Networks, at least for this year?
Growing up on us, you know.
Growing up. And we're going to hit a topic that we've hit before today, right? But it's an important one because, you know, when you look at modern IT landscape, it's all about hybrid cloud. It's all about cloud. When you're not doing generative AI, it's cloud. We're going to talk about cloud security. What do you think?
I think it's great. I think what is also interesting about this is, you know, what I've loved about our Tech Talk series is we've talked to folks from like all over the world, right? Down in the Caribbean, in Europe, down in South America, and a lot of emerging economies.
Right.
This week, we're focusing on a country and a GDP that's not really emerging. It's already really strong and really big.
Where are we going?
We're going to Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. I love it.
Mexico, specifically Mexico City. And Mexico City, you know, I think it's the second largest city in North America, behind Sao Paulo. It might be number one. It's in between those two. Huge city, so much commerce there around financial services, around government. And there are so many companies that are based in Mexico City that need help in these regards, right? Like every other major city out there, you know, big concerns for financial services and government or security and compliance and making sure that the good guys can do what they need to and the bad guys are locked out.
Absolutely.
So we're going to have a couple of folks this week.
Who do we have?
All right, let me introduce them to you, Steve.
Please do.
This is going to be a fun one. So the first gentleman we have has been in industry for quite a while. He spent time at Citrix doing a bunch of different roles. He was at in IT, managing AWS services and Citrix services for his organization. And now he manages the cloud and security practices for a company, an IT services consulting company called SIJISA. His name is Israel, Lugo, and super great guy, super sharp guy, who happens to have a cat that might occasionally scroll through the screen during our conversation. So welcome to the podcast, Israel.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be here with the Hillstone Tech Talks.
Thank you. Our second guy is equally qualified. He's been in IT and security adjacent, you know, networking, the plumbing for about 20 years. He's been in cybersecurity for 12 years, which really is like 100 years in regular life because it's so fast moving and there's so much going on. He's with Hillstone Networks. He is a sales engineer, solution specialist, focusing obviously on security. Alvaro Martinez. Alvaro, thank you for joining the Tech Talk with us here.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. My first time.
Thank you. Well, hopefully it will. Hopefully it won't be your last time.
Right.
So thanks for being here, guys. Let us kind of kick off with, did we accurately kind of describe what is going on in Mexico City? Lots of activity, lots of up and coming companies that span these different industries. Or what are you seeing out there? You know, what's really popping down in Mexico City?
Okay, in my case, I see a lot of financial companies that must be compliant, and they have another problem: the expansion. They don't have enough infrastructure in his data centers for that expansion. And that's why the cloud becomes very important for all that companies, inclusive government, that a few years ago, we don't have a law to that the government can send the data to the foreigners for other countries, because it's a very high level law that all information of government must reside in Mexico. And that was the problem a few years ago that today is resolved. We can send data to other countries.
So there are data sovereignty considerations that kind of come into play when you're kind of looking at the government?
Yeah, that's become the first problem to be solved, to the government can move the journey, begun the journey to the cloud.
Yeah, right now, for example, for me, I'm in Panama right now, but I'm in charge for the region, for the Central American Caribbean region. And what we have here in Panama, for example, is from the government perspective, that's the law. It is special private data. It can be on the cloud. So a lot of different organizations, for example, they keep data centers locally or they keep their servers locally. But some other banks, for example, the financial sector, they are moving the information to the cloud. But this has been maybe 5 years ago, something like that, but they haven't been able to make an agreement about where the government can keep the information. They just say, okay, I'm going to use your cloud. So Microsoft, for example, let's say a name, Office, I need you to set up a farm server directly here in Panama. And that's not, it's not going to happen. So there is an issue over there that has not been fixed yet.
Oh, that's interesting. So, we're talking about, and you're talking about kind of the government, but even when you get into some of these industries like financial services, insurance, these are heavily, heavily regulated, right? So in some cases, there are challenges around sovereignty and kind of data locality are even more strict than the government because they have to adhere to the
The
Mexican
data
government.
privacy.
Yeah, right. It just kind of expands. So do you see that as an additional challenge or how do you see that out in the market?
Yeah, like I said, from the financial sector, I know a lot of different banks that they have moved their services to the cloud with no more issue. A few banks, other banks, for example, they talk about the data privacy, and most of all the national banks, the government banks. But I don't know. Like I said, there is not a full agreement. For example, I know some other government institution, they have to start using cloud services. Some others don't. So I don't see, I don't know where they're going to make an agreement on that.
Yeah, and also they have another problem. They can't move his data to the cloud because the fines in Mexico are too high. Maybe 1 million Mexican pesos. That could be a medium financial enterprise or business that can go out of business.
And it seems to me that there are two types of customers that are emerging and I want to validate this with you. And Steve, I'm going to leave it at this question and let you jump in. I'm sorry. But I'm just kind of setting the stage. There are companies that have been around for a while, right? And they have traditional, physical presences, a building and offices and, trading floors and data centers where they, kind of conduct their business. And then there are these digital upstarts, these cloud native companies that kind of just emerged and their entire business is based on a cloud operating model, right? They don't have a physical data center. They don't have they don't have a practice where they have buildings and people. Everything is done through apps on the line and managed through the cloud. That's how it is here in the US. Do you see that down in Mexico as well? And does that add another level of complexity from a security and compliance perspective?
Yes, I see it a lot in middle and little size assurance company. A new business in Mexico called it fintechs. Fintechs is a company that if you go with the bank and the bank don't give you money, you can go with the fintechs. And that is a very good business here in Mexico, but you tell you very well, they don't have enough buildings and infrastructure for the expansion.
Yeah. And Alvaro, are you seeing that as well? Do you run into that a lot, or have you experienced these companies?
Yeah, like I said, for example, we were talking right now about maybe large to medium enterprise. But for example, over here in my country, almost every, let's say, these small business, SMBs, in fact, they are moving services to the cloud. If it is only, for example, just one server, just the CRM system or something like that, and they are moving without any kind of issues or penalties or anything. The main issue with let's say, the medium or large enterprises maybe is because of they think like we used to call it the legacy network. They think, oh, I need to have, I must have all of my information over here in my data center, maybe a private data center, not located directly on the office. But as you grow, as you go up with the different time of companies, let's say the government, large enterprise, and all that, that is the issue, the regulations and the security and the data privacy. That is what is stopping them from moving from on-premise to the cloud.
So Israel, let me ask you this. We talk a lot about the need for things like compliance and data protection. When a customer comes to you though and says, I'm moving my workloads to the cloud, what does that engagement look like? How do you proceed and help them identify what they might need?
When the clients approach to SIJISA, they want to be secure on the cloud. They is too much people right now in Mexico that believe that the cloud is public, and they don't know the private public of the biggest infrastructure as a service providers. So that's become the main problem, and that's why that kind of companies approach to SIJISA, because they have a lot of info that want to be secure and don't want to be fined and don't want to be hacked on the cloud.
Okay. And kind of same question to you, Alvaro. What does your engagement look like when you meet with a customer who's starting their journey to the cloud? How do you work together with them?
Okay, one part of the process is the actual moving let's say the business, the workloads directly to the cloud. The other issue that many customers are not aware of is about the risk. Like Israel said, they don't quite understand the public cloud concept, and they think, okay, I move my information to the cloud, everything is safe over there. The service provider is going to protect all of my information, and they are not aware of the shared responsibility model. That is, in fact, you can see what the cloud provider must be able to provide. But basically, no matter if we're using, for example, on-premise data servers, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, always the information must be protected directly for the customer. And that's why when they ask, okay, what do I need? We have to first understand what type of deployment. Like we say, we have infrastructure as a service. For example, when we directly on the cloud, we set up a virtual machine, a server, or something like that, where we have the platform as a service. We use an application directly from the cloud to do that. Or maybe the software as a service. When you use, for example, Office 365, we need to know what kind of deployment, what kind of application, what kind of workloads the customer is using, so we can suggest maybe a better approach about the security.
And go ahead, Steve. You had a follow-on?
No, go ahead.
So question, kind of bringing this back. So follow on to what Steve just asked. So I'm going to kind of ask this of both of you. We'll start with Israel. So Israel, when I kind of think about SIJISA, IT consulting and services, that's a pretty general term here in the US, right? So customer comes to you, says, I'm beginning my cloud journey. I want to, maybe use Salesforce for CRM, and I want to move these databases up into the cloud because I'm running out of space. What is it that SIJISA does? What are the services you provide? Is it more just here are the 10 things that you need to do to help them with that journey, kind of guide them through? Or do you deliver technical services to them, help them with a lift and shift or a migration? What is the value that SIJISA provides to these customers?
When I began my journey with SIJISA, I see that the clients and SIJISA only implements firewalls at data centers. And I'm saying SIJISA, no, now the cloud has a lot of opportunities that we can protect the databases, we can protect Active Directory, we can protect the virtual apps or the web apps on the cloud. The simplest way to use firewalls in the cloud is make a VPN with the cloud provider, and in that moment we can begin the journey for that companies to move securely the data to the cloud.
Got it. Got it. And Alvaro, how does Hillstone kind of play into this equation?
No, yeah, just like I said a few minutes before, it depends on the cloud service that the customer has. For example, if you're talking about a virtual machine or something like that running directly on the cloud, maybe we can think about a virtual machine firewall also, who is going to be deployed directly on the cloud. But remember, depending on the cloud, they have different structure about the internal communications. So for example, if you place the firewall directly on the perimeter in front of the cloud to check what is coming in and what's coming out, okay, you can check that. But what is happening inside the cloud? There is a whole lot of infrastructure over there. So you have to think about how to deploy some kind of security solution so you can check directly on that traffic. That's talking from the VM's perspective, the virtual machines. But let's say a customer that is running, for example, containers. Let's say, for example, a customer that is running serverless Lambda function like AWS call that. We can check that directly just using by a virtual machine firewall. On the containers, we are not going to be able directly the traffic between the containers with a virtual machine firewall. We have to think about a new solution that is it's named Cloud Workload Protection Platform, CWPP. Yeah, and we have all that kind of solutions right here at Hillstone. Like I said, depending on the type of service or what is the customers right now is moving directly to the cloud, we are able to suggest the better solution, the better security solution.
So your engagement includes both, and your value add includes both a kind of like sit down assessment, evaluation, consulting kind of engagement with the customer, as well as obviously the Hillstone portfolio of IP and products, right? It's kind of a combination of both. It's not just a buy these two products and away you go. It's more taking the time up front to understanding what their real needs are, what their real vulnerabilities might be, and kind of, and then aligning the portfolio to that specific circumstance.
Yeah, like I said one time in one conference that I was, sometimes the best solution is not the one that has the more appliances or the more things that I need to add, because it's going to be too complex. And if I try to look at something that is happening on a specific moment, it's going to take me a lot of time. So the best way is to sit down. Let's talk. Let's check your infrastructure. Let's explain me what you're looking for, what you are doing right now to the cloud, and we can suggest or we can provide a better solution.
Got it.
And when you look at cloud versus on-prem, is it really different? I mean, what are some of the unique challenges, right? If I'm securing cloud versus more traditional on-prem IT.
Okay, it depends. For example, where I was talking just a few moments ago about containers, you can run also containers directly on private cloud. You can do it on public or private cloud, let's say. We have different types of solutions. We have, for example, specific solutions directly to run or to be run on premise. Then we have another bigger solution, a global solution that can be run directly on premise, but also can cover cloud services. But the main issue is the data protection. From my experience, I say that the main issue for the cloud data protection are the users. A lot of information can be exposed directly because of misconfiguration or human error. So we need something that is making, let's say, a permanent scanning about how is the configuration on the cloud is being done. So we can be sure that that configuration is match the different requirements, the different standards from security and all that. And if someone makes a mistake, it can immediately create an alert to say, hey, something's going over here, please correct this.
And I'm going to kind of, Steve, you know, I'm going to zoom back out here for a second. Israel, when we kind of started the discussion, we talked about kind of focus areas for SIJISA, financial services, insurance, government, right? Those are three industries or three verticals that share some similarities, but share some differences, right? Three different types of customers. Do you find, like, across these different verticals, and maybe all verticals, that there are common areas that if you're a medium-sized business, you're going to struggle with these areas when considering a migration to the cloud or using cloud services? It might be kind of, as Alvaro was talking about, kind of, within the cloud to cloud services and kind of vulnerabilities there could be kind of interact, could be data sovereignty or locality. Do you find that there are just common challenges that every medium-sized company has that you can help with?
Yes, I see that in three common challenges. They want to protect the data, the medium where the data is transmitted, and the files that upload or download the users. Yeah. That's what's always be the three main focus on, and to protect the journey to the cloud.
And what about you, Alvaro? Are there things specific to kind of that mid-sized business that you find it doesn't matter what kind of customer it is, they all seem to have the same set of challenges or a common set of challenges?
Yeah, well, like I said, the main issue is to provide security and maybe also get the visibility, full visibility of what is going on in the cloud. I have seen a lot of different tools from different cloud providers, and I have to say the visibility, I don't like it. It's very, very minimum, very, very small. Because, okay, for example, I was helping some friend over a few weeks ago to set up a VPN for a cloud solution. Okay, show me the logs about the, oh, I can. Okay, how can you see the status over this? Oh, no, I can. Okay, how do you have a diagram or something about how to route the traffic directly to the cloud? Oh no, I can. I just can use the command line interface to do this and do that. Okay, you don't have visibility. The main issue for moving to the cloud is that you lack of visibility. So you need some kind of tool that provides you that kind of visibility that you need to protect. You cannot protect what you can see.
But Alvaro, I think a lot of people watching and listening totally get it. Visibility, observability, that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people would think, though, that as your cloud estate grows, right, as you use more and more cloud services, that ability to gain like meaningful insights through visibility, observability tools becomes more and more difficult because you just have more going on. How do you address that? I mean, I can understand a smaller company it being relatively easy, but as the needs grows, how does the Hillstone kind of solve for that?
Okay, like I said, depending on the type of infrastructure or the information or the services the customer is running directly on the cloud, we have different tools. We have different tools, for example, that can provide, for example, solution for microsegmentation. Microsegmentation is preventing the servers, even in the same network, to communicate directly. With microsegmentation, I can control that, so I can reduce the surface attack in case of an issue or that something happens. We have, for example, another solution that is going to allow us to see, for example, the internal container communications and all that, and set up policies, security policies to the traffic that is coming through the different containers directly on the cloud. We can provide that kind of visibility, and specifically, for example, we can check on the applications that the customer is running directly on the cloud. That is a lot, very, very important. Like a few time ago, for example, it is very important also have the visibility directly on what our customers are doing directly in our on-premises network. That is an issue directly on the cloud, and we can solve that with our solutions.
Is that a simple one console kind of go in and manage everything from a single interface, or is it become okay?
Yeah, for example, we have an orchestrator, let's say with a common name. For example, you have a lot of different firewalls. You can run our orchestrator console and you can see all of the firewalls at a time. We have the different micro-segmentation solutions. We have the other solution, for example, to protect cloud environments. It's just, like you said, it's a single pane of glass. We can check everything that is happening directly on the cloud with one console.
That's nice. That's nice. And Israel, do you see that as something your customers, that you speak with, are asking about? Kind of like, look, I need to secure, everybody knows we need to secure data. We need to make sure that, data is not in the hands of the bad people. Also, we need to make sure it's where it belongs and access is managed and all that. Are you finding that customers are asking to do this, but do it in a simple way, or do they not really think about visibility and kind of monitoring and management from a single console?
Yes, they are looking for a single console, a single point of management, because here in Mexico, the CISO and his employees, they are a few people. They're not a big culture that security services area in the companies. They need too much people, and that's why the companies need a single point of management for all the solutions that they could have on the cloud. And the single point of solution also needs to have integration with other products.
Yeah, that's a biggie. Yeah. You know, Steve, this is something you and I, when we talk to customers here a lot, right? It's the smaller customers are easier in some way because they don't have a super large and complex digital estate. The
Right.
larger companies in some ways are easier because they have the staff and the technology and they can invest the money to kind of account for some of this. But that mid-size where it's like you're growing fast, you got more and more data, and you're expanding quickly, but you don't have the budget to support the management, that's where it gets really challenging. So let's kind of wrap this around to the, you know, we're talking about the challenges that your customers have. We're talking about the challenges in the market in general. Let's talk about the relationship between SIJISA and Hillstone in particular. You know, SIJISA, you're out there, you're an IT consulting organization. You're dealing with a lot of different types of customers with different needs. You know, what is it about Hillstone as a company and the people within the company, so the technology and the people, that make them, you know, an interesting play and a good play for your customers?
SIJISA look at Hillstone because we see that the clients need to cover all security issues, and sometimes in medium sizes, like you tell before, the budget is a big issue in the medium and small sizes companies because they need to protect a lot of data, and sometimes when that medium or little companies are successful, that increment of data is a very big issue, but they don't have preview of a budget for security or cybersecurity. And that's why our CGs are looking for Hillstone that covers the majority of the needs of the cybersecurity on the cloud, inclusive on-premise, and they compete very well with a budget in medium and small companies.
And what I appreciate also about Hillstone is, Alvaro, you're a perfect example of the folks I meet at Hillstone and say, you know, there are a lot of security upstarts or startups, right? I think there are over 1,500 companies out there that do so many different point solutions. But Hillstone has such a breadth of technology and such a depth, right? And you, like yourself, you have a background in networking. You've kind of approached security from the bottom up and have a very well-rounded view. And that's kind of emblematic of what Hillstone does, right? I mean, that's kind of your superpower as a company, I would think.
Yeah, like we were just saying, during the conversation, we can check on all the cloud environment, no matter it's a public cloud, no matter it's a private cloud. One issue that we were discussing, for example, when we made a project, we made a solution for a customer. We can say, okay, this is the ideal scenario. Or you can set up this, set over this, but it's the budget issue. So, for example, we can set up a meeting, analyze the solution, and let's say, okay, you can do, you have enough budget to do all of one time. Okay, let's say let's make a scenario number one. First, we are going to start with this. Then we are going to follow with this. Then the next year you can do over this. It's better to start with something than having nothing. Yeah. And from the customer perspective, that sometimes when I'll talk with my customers and they say, for example, okay, you have, let's say, for example, you have your billing server on the cloud, right? You have all the information, your contacts, your bills, and everything you have to pay, everything you have to reclaim from your customer. Let's say someone encrypts or that server gets hacked and you lose the information. How much money is that going to cost you to get your company again up and running, and how many days? Yeah. How much money? How many days and how much money is going to? Okay, I forgot the words. how much money is you are going to need or you're going to lose while the
Yeah.
time that you get your service up and running.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say $100,000, something like that, and you will see that you can prevent you from happening maybe by investing, let's say, $2,000, maybe $3,000, $10,000. Don't you think that the inversion is worth it?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It should be an obvious answer, right? Should
Yeah,
be.
but you have to focus that directly from the customer, the money perspective. You can say, oh, you are losing money. If something happens to your service on the cloud, you are going to lose a lot of money.
Yeah.
Maybe more than the money you will spend you have to spend by buying a security solution.
I have to think that's once customers start to look at, or potential customers start to look at things that way, it becomes a pretty easy and obvious sell, right? For both SIJISA and Hillstone, right? I mean, it's it's like an imbalance, right? Spend a little bit to save a lot, right? Because everybody's getting attacked. There are no
Everyone.
Yeah, there are no innocent bystanders in the cybersecurity world anymore.
Yeah, and that's what we love of the Hillstone, the flexibility to offer different kinds of cybersecurity solutions, no matter if you are in the cloud, hybrid, or on-premise.
Yeah, that's a unique position to be in. And not only that, what I like is in this market where there are, 1,500 plus vendors and everybody has a really pointy solution that does one thing around cybersecurity. Hillstone has such a broad offering, as you mentioned, on-prem, in the cloud, hybrid, whether it's, observability or protection or, next gen VPN, if you will, through ZTNA. There's so many things that you do that address the holistic security challenges that companies have.
Yeah, and one thing that is very important, for example, that the security solution that you're using right now are able to talk between themselves.
Yeah.
You don't have a security silo. Let's
Yeah.
say something happened, you are looking at an incident right now on the network, and if those security solutions are not able to talk between them, you will have to be checking one security solution at a time and see, oh, wait, what happened over here? What is happening over here? What do you see over there? And you are going to lose time.
Yeah, lose time and lose money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and lose data potentially. Yeah. All right, listen, hey, we're coming up close to the end. Is that about right, Steve?
We are. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a couple of quick questions, if you don't mind, that are not related to cybersecurity. Is that okay? Because we like to give our listeners a feel for, kind of the value add that our partners and Hillstone are adding, but also get a feel for kind of, where you're from and what your, what your cities and countries are like. So first question, I have 24 hours to spend in Mexico City. What do you guys recommend and I do for fun? What is the one thing or two things or three things that every visitor to Mexico City should do?
Okay, I recommend that at least visit one museum.
Okay.
We in the city, we have a lot of museums. In all the country, we are the city with the most museums.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a good one. That's a good one. And where am I going to eat? What, don't say Mexican food because we're in Mexico City. Is there a specific restaurant that you would recommend?
Oh, we have a lot of restaurants. We have one at Polanco that is called Tres Marias. They are too careful with the spicy food for foreigner people. It's that they don't have the Moctezuma revenge. Okay.
I like that one.
It's a Mexican. We have another kind of restaurants that include music, and the most famous music in the world from Mexico, not the only one, is mariachi, and we have a lot of restaurants with mariachis.
Excellent. Alvaro, same question to you. What do you recommend we do for fun, and where do you recommend we eat?
Okay, here in Panama depends on your likes, what you want to do. For example, if you are here right now at the city and you go to a beach, you can get a pretty nice beach, maybe 45 1 hour from the city.
Okay.
Okay, if you want to check, they say everyone that goes over there say, oh, it's like a little Miami. There is a region over there that is made of 3 islands connected by a road. It's named the Causeway, for example. You can get over there and to take a hike. You can eat different kinds of foods over there, fish, Italian food, Panamanian food, grilled food, whatever you need. And everybody likes to come over here to Panama to make shopping. Technology, clothes, everything. If you are more like a hiking type of guy, for example, you can go to some other regions over here in Panama. Here in Panama, the weather is very warm.
Yeah.
It's very warm, for example, but we have regions here in Panama that has cold weather.
I don't want cold weather.
No, not that cold. Maybe in
No, it's very kind. Here.
maybe 20, 25 degrees Celsius.
Okay, that's not cold. That's good.
That's fresh for us.
That's
Over here in the city right now, we have maybe 37 degrees Celsius.
Ooh, that's warm. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I'm in Texas.
About the cold in Mexico City, I see European people in winter with shorts.
Yeah.
And most of the Mexican people, they have at least a sweater.
Yeah. Europeans are a little bit strange. I don't mean that in a negative way.
Yeah.
Steve, did you know that Panama in general, and Panama City is I think it's either #1 or #2 for Americans to retire to from a quality of life.
Yeah, we have a lot of retired Americans living over here.
I did not know that. Is that because a lot of people speak English there? Or is it
It's cost of living. The cost of living is great.
Yeah, that is the issue, because living.
The quality of life is fantastic.
They come over here, they buy a house, there is something, for example, they buy a house here on Panama City, or they go to our city named Boquete. Like I said, that's a cold weather. There is a big American colony over there.
Yeah.
From American citizens. And also, I forgot to say, you can visit here the Panama Canal. Everyone that comes to Panama has to visit the Panama Canal. Must visit the Panama Canal.
We need to go check it out, Matt, and see where we might retire.
And
we're gonna start in Mexico City and work our way up to Panama City, and then come back to us.
Yeah,
excellent.
Also, here in Mexico is the very interesting the historic buildings. We have buildings from the pre-Hispanic. We have buildings from Hispanic buildings from the colony.
Yeah.
And that's a very good architecture here in Mexico. And then we have a lot of moderns and different styles in architecture.
Yeah, well, we're coming down. So it sounds like we are going to go to a museum and check out some cool architecture in Mexico City, followed by dinner with mariachi bands. And then we're going to hit the beaches in Panama City and have some great food, Italian and Panamanian and otherwise, before coming back to the US. And you guys are going to treat us to this, right? You're going to be our tour guides?
Yes, of course.
All right. There we go.
Well, we should end this webcast right now, Matt, so we can go catch a plane and head south. Hey, thank you guys very much. And Matt, you and I will see each other again next month for the 9th.
Thanks for the invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thanks for a great conversation, guys.